So right now, we're on the semi-annual report. And again, this is a separate packet. So I'm going to go to Mr. Stevens on my left here. Do you have anything on this, or you're still waiting? Still waiting, okay. Frank?
Madam Chairman, I think under reports, I'd like to comment on the page 22 of the auditor's report that I have in front of me here, of the semi-annual report, and is concerning 7 gens. I'd like to make a comment on that on page 22. And then I'd like to just point out 3 notes that the auditor had made, the independent auditor.
Okay.
If everybody look on page 22 of your packet, on the right-hand side of the independent auditor's report, he states in his report on December 15th, 2013, he said the Oneida Nation approved the dissolution of the 7 gens, as noted in 5. Significant action of that particular corporation is due on the 17th, 2017. He said it raises issues of the corporation's ability to continue as a going concern. Now, this is not my words. This is the words of the independent auditor, so this is not me speaking. So I'd like to skip over all the other things that he made and just go down to note 6 and 7. That's on page 31. You can page the 31 if you would. And what the auditor is saying, if you look at this, he said 7 gens has no intention to dissolve. It says 7 gens is currently working to extend the debt. And if you look on that note 6, it goes up to 2029, where it'll be $4 million that they'd spent. Now, down on note 7, the second paragraph, the independent auditor said on March 6, 2014, AFC Leasing, LLC, Generation Clean Fuels, initiated a lawsuit against the nation, the corporation, and Green Bay Renewable Energy, alleging about $400 million. Now, at that time, the business committee, if you remember, said that's too much. They object, and they would report back to us, which they never did. 7 months later, the appellate court in Illinois ruled on October 15th, 2015, in favor of the United Tribe, the corporation, including that the nation and the corporation are immune from the suit due to sovereign immunity. So if everybody understands that if you're immune, we can't be sued. That $400 million should mean nothing. And if you dissolved back then, we would have saved $5 million before. But now what happened, it says since that then, we never got a report back. It says that the Green Bay Renewable Energy entered into a confidential out-of-court settlement with AFC. And we understand that you promised to come back to us. You haven't, and then I understand now that somebody from not even connected with the business committee or 7 gens, went to Chicago and settled it for $40 million. We don't have to pay anybody. It was like the tissue thing. They can't be sued. We shouldn't be paying that money. And yet they went and report out $40 million. You have never reported back to the general tribal what they did. That's $40 million we could have. Each one of us, 17,000, could have $500,000 ourselves instead of just giving it away. So we have never been returned back. And then after that, it says the last paragraph, the corporation was also a party to an arbitration dispute with a former tenant. The corporation adamantly disagreed with the decision from the arbitrator. However, the corporation satisfied the required findings. Again, we're just giving away money. So my question is, the BC has not told the General Tribal Council the amount of the settlement. And the Constitution states that the General Tribal is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution states that the treasurer must report to the General Tribal Council at every meeting on all the money spent. And it says the treasurer swore an oath to obey the General Tribal Council. The tribe can't be sued. I hope everybody understands that. If we pulled out a long time ago, we wouldn't be standing here today. We don't owe anybody anything. So why is the General C allowing this to happen? It's 4 years now that they doesn't do nothing. And he promised to dissolve them. Nobody carried out the oath. This is the 4th year, and St. John's is still going. They're making long-term plans and borrowing more money. They're taking in, if you look at note 6, I just mentioned, where we're $4 million. If you had pulled their charter, we wouldn't be here today. We'd have saved ourselves $4 million. All the money you're putting out could have been given to out here. We could have raised salaries. We could have helped a lot of people, and yet you're giving it to everybody else but us. So that's all I just wanted to point out to General Tribal. We taken suckers by you people.
Joanne, can you give us a summary of the out-of-court settlement?
You've requested a summary of the out-of-court settlement in regards to the ACF litigation. Unfortunately, I can tell you that it was settled. The sum was nowhere near the $40 million. However, at that time, the agent was unaware that he was not authorized to settle this case in a confidential manner, and he did so. That if we violate that confidentiality agreement, we open the tribe to additional litigation if we indicate the exact amount of that settlement to the General Tribal Council or any other body. So I cannot give you that number of the settlement. I don't actually have that actual number. I just know that it was settled for a significantly smaller amount than $40 million.
Joanne, you said that the agent was not authorized to settle. Who was the agent at the time?
Pete King with King Solutions.
Then how did it get settled? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know the specifics about the settlement. I know we had a conversation about it, and that there were some parameters, and the decision changed from one meeting to another, and I never heard any follow-up, and maybe I'm just not aware, but how did that come to be that you said the agent was not authorized to settle?
So the General Tribal Council had been notified that it would receive information in regards to this lawsuit. Mr. Cornelius is right. The Illinois courts identified that neither the tribe nor Seven Gens had waived its sovereign immunity in this litigation and could not move forward against either of those entities. However, there were still entities of Seven Gens that were in that litigation. And the cost of dragging the litigation on to conclude that through discovery and et cetera would have outweighed the cost of settlement. The agent, King Solutions, LLC, reviewed all of that information with their legal counsel, looked at the consequences of having this matter pursued by ACF against the remaining corporate entity. I believe that was Green Bay Renewable Energy, which was not immune from suit at that time, and determined that settlement was in the best interest.
Madam Chairman.
Any committee members want to comment on the settlement agreement, whether or not it was of the advisement of the business committee or not? You know, I stood on principle saying, you know, we took it this far, we need to complete the process, but there were some considerations around costs. So I think we were saying, I was saying at least we needed to pursue it to the end. I think information came back around costs, and I think there was changes amongst the committee to settle. Again, I still felt because we took it to that point that we needed to finish it, even though there would be more legal expense. But again, based on principle and so that we could have a clean outcome, that was my preference. But I don't know any of the particulars beyond that. And I don't know if any other business committee member wants to comment at this time.
Well, and
Any
just
of
to
you?
be clear, the chairwoman is absolutely right. The business committee did not settle this case. Neither did Seven Gens. At the point this case was settled, both the business committee and Oneida Seven Generations Corporation had won, and the case against the business committee or the Oneida tribe and the Oneida Seven Generations had been dismissed. But there were more than just those two parties in this lawsuit. Green Bay Renewable Energy, GBRE, was the corporate entity that remained in this case. So they did follow the business committee's directive in regards to those two entities.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Frank?
may I make a comment? And again, what this independent auditor said, that was total bad advice that the attorney just gave you right now, and she admits she didn't study it. She's not working for the tribe, and the business committee, if she'd pointed out the General Tribal Council was a supreme law and said dissolve 4 years ago. So when the General Tribal Council or the Supreme Court, a federal court run in Chicago, not tribal attorneys, they had real attorneys there. They said we're immune, we can't be sued. We shouldn't have to pay anybody. So continuing on and going out and settling, you're not listening to the General Tribal Council. We should be having that money. We collected over $2 million just last year, and we're not getting any 1 cent back. If you look at the auditor's report on page, let me get it back here. He said one of the things, any potential, on page 11 of your auditing book in front of you, paragraph 6, he said, any potential return to the tribe would be determined by the shareholders at the meeting, at the BC, at their discretion. If you remember, Patty Heft said, when they went into those meetings, not as a business committee, it was all business committee members, but the business committee is a shareholder, nobody else. Therefore, the business committee determines who gets the money, and the shareholders, and nobody gets it back. The tribe doesn't get it back. So the attorney right over there sitting there has not told us yet what the settlement has been. They're lying to us when you say you're going to bring it back. It was a $400 million suit. They said you don't have to pay it back. You're immune from suit. Just like in a tissue thing, we lost $4 million there. You don't have to pay it back. You can't be sued. Ask our tribal attorney, the expensive one.
All right, Frank. Any other comments from the business committee in regards to what transpired? Brandon, you were asking for the point of order. What is your point of order that you were trying to get my attention for
Well, I was just kind
while
of
Frank was speaking?
my point of order was just getting a little aggressive, but I just want to speak to the comments we could not dissolve the corporation because as soon as that motion went in order, we went into motion and dissolving the corporation, but immediately we went into litigation. And so as when you're in litigation, you cannot move or do anything with the assets or the corporation as you're going through litigation. And so basically the corporation's activities has to be frozen. You can't do anything. You can't dissolve it. You can't, so it does have to maintain. And so that's one of the reasons why, and it was 3 years ago when that motion was made. And so I wanted to make sure that we made motions to do that, to dissolving, but when we were in litigation, we kept going into litigation and litigation, and we did report that, and Seven Gens did come up here with a report a few meetings ago and reported on the activities of Seven Generations. I hope you do remember that, but I just wanted us to reflect that we cannot dissolve the corporation because in litigation we could not touch any of those assets or dissolve any of those activities.
You're wrong, because the General Tribal is supreme. You can't tell us as a business committee what to do. You swore an oath to carry it out. The Constitution says the General Tribal Council must oppose any encumbrance on our property, finance or real property, or financial property. So you're wrong when you're saying what you just said. They can do it. You're the supreme law of the land. If they tell you what to do, you can't say, no, we're not going to do that. You don't have that power. You work for the General Tribal Council. Litigation means nothing. Now let me just finish. If somebody wanted your car, you borrowed money from the bank and you didn't make a payment, they'd come and get the car. You can litigate all you want. They got the car. So what, you're supposed to dissolve it like we told you to. They can litigate all they want, but you're supposed to dissolve it. Everything would have been done if you dissolved it then. We wouldn't be sued, and they said you can't be sued now. And yet you go out and make payments, so you're going settling things because you're not listening, you don't know what you're doing. Follow what the federal court said, not for these attorneys. Real attorneys made that decision.
Yeah. So just a response, we did report to the General Tribal Council that we could not dissolve the corporation at that time. I believe it was Melinda, might have been chairing the meeting, that said, because we're in litigation, we reported that to this body that said that we are not able to dissolve this corporation in the time that's allotted. And so at the time, we said would have been about 13 months to finish, and then after that closing of that 13 months, we did report back in that we did report that we're still continuing through litigation, and we did report that. So I just want to continue to say we reported as we were supposed to along the timelines that we've been allotted.
Joanne, can you clarify for us at this time what, you said you can't disclose the amount of the settlement, but can you describe who the settlement went to, where it was funded, how it got paid, who got paid, without giving us the number? Pardon? Pete, we'll go to you next, but go ahead, Joanne. My question is still relevant.
Thank you. To the best of my knowledge, the settlement was between GBRE and ACF and funded through GBRE funds. Those funds may have been delivered from Seven Gens to Green Bay Renewable Energy to pay ACF.
Privilege question.
Thank you, Joanne. What is your privilege question?
Okay, we don't know those acronyms. Who are these people? Are any of these people? Come on. Are any of those people that sued us any members of our own tribe? I mean, why would, I don't get this here. I'm very confused. Partially, I can't hear everything that you guys are saying is one. But the other thing is, what I did hear partially, which I want to be corrected, is that an agent of our tribe went ahead and made the deal, but he wasn't authorized to do that. I don't get that. If you're not authorized to do that, then you can't do it. Where's the mix-up here? Or is it just me not seeing this?
Pete, can you reply? Pete King is agent for Seven Gens. He's also the proprietor of King Solutions. Pete? Please let him respond. Leo, I'll come back to you. Just stay put, I'll come back to you.
What was the question? I mean, we settled the lawsuit. It was a confidential lawsuit. I reported that August 10th, 2016. It was between, as our attorney stated, it was between GBRE and ACF Leasing, which was a company in Chicago, had nothing to do with tribal ownership, anything like that.
But you didn't have the right to do that.
Initially, the tribe was involved in a lawsuit. Initially, it was,
Correct,
but
correct.
our portion, our position was that you can't sue the tribe. We're a sovereign nation. So the Oneida Nation as a party to the suit was dismissed, but the case continued on, the lawsuit continued on. And I don't know if you can explain further GBRF and ACF to the membership?
GBRE was a subsidiary of Seven Gens. This was all about the renewable energy project.
And who had vestings in that?
I'm sorry?
Who had vestings in that company you just talked about? Who owns that?
Oneida Seven Gens owns that company.
And we own Oneida Seven Gens, right?
Correct.
Okay, so now I'm very confused.
Well, there's nothing confusing about it, actually. And just to rebut, I'd like to talk about what Frank was talking about in terms of
Sure.
the dissolution of the tribe, of the Seven Gens, because I think that's what everybody wants to hear about. So we're ready to dissolve the corporation as soon as our lawsuits are finished. We do have a 2 to 3 year timeline on that. The dissolution of Seven Gens has cost us millions of dollars. It's cost us business opportunities. It's cost us credibility within the business community. We're trying to do businesses, we're open for business. You can see all the development in August 10th when I brought the opportunities here. There's hundreds of millions of dollars going on in this community right here. So I question from a tribal standpoint, whose water is he carrying? Who are these folks carrying? This feels like Hobart to me. And Hobart are the ones who are being successful. Go take a look at Centennial Lane. Go take a look out there and see what Hobart's doing.
Can we
see
stay
what
on
Green Bay's
topic,
doing.
please? Can
Well,
we
this
stay
is
on topic?
relevant. I'm responding to him, not as an agent. Now I'm responding to him as a tribal member. I'm putting my
Okay.
tribal member hat on because.
Okay, I prefer to keep the agent hat on for now.
Okay, well, I'll put that
Otherwise, you
back
have
on.
to
We're
get
still
back
missing,
in
That's
line.
right.
even as an agent, we're still missing opportunities. The dissolution of Seven Gens has never been about Seven Gens. Seven Gens has always been good. It's always been Bellin, Schneider, Badger Sheet Metal. The dissolution was all about the renewable energy project. That has long gone sunsetted. That's done in 2013. That was done.
Privileged question, Madam Chair, to Pete King. Pete King, did you personally make any kind of money off of all this settlement, or whether it was in work or work? I'm not saying you underhandedly took anything. I'm just saying. You were never paid as an agent, nothing, no gain.
I'm paid as an agent on behalf of the Seven Gens.
But you're...
Okay. He is the agent and he is an employee. He is on contract through his business called King Solutions. That's a given, that's understood. Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on. Anything else, Pete? As far as response? Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. I'm going to come back to you. I'll go to Leah, then Gina. I don't know how you can have a privileged question at this point. We're having discussion.
I would like to know how a baby could tell his mother and dad what to do.
That's not a
That thing
privileged
is a part
question.
of Seven Gens. Seven Gens was a part of the business committee. They created it. The General Tribal Council said dissolve them. The federal courts said this case dismissed, they can't be sued. So now they're telling us, oh, but it doesn't apply to us.
Okay, you need to
does that
understand
happen?
corporate status regards to the parent or whatever analogy you want to use. Is Seven Generations is a corporate charter of Oneida. And there's a corporate veil that protects the tribe from being sued. And so that is Seven Gen's responsibility to ensure that the assets of the tribe are not at risk. Therefore, there is a separate corporate status through some of these other entities and sub-entities of Seven Gens, which GBRE is one of them. They are underneath Seven Gens, which is the parent corporation. Okay, I said Leah, then Gina.
Okay, that's really interesting. So why in February of 2016 did Deputy Chief Counsel Jim Bittorf tell me and Mike Nebraska that John Brenninger was the sole managing director of these, at the time, OSGC, GBRE, and whatever, and that he was authorized to make a settlement agreement, and that a settlement agreement had already been made, but he did not feel confident to disclose the amount, and that insurance wasn't covering it. So now we find out that, so if whoever finally did make this, who was it, John Brenninger or was it Pete King? And if he wasn't authorized to make this agreement, why did you still go ahead and give him the money anyway? I mean, let Green Bay Renewable Energy take its knocks. It's the one that got itself into this trouble. And who really is Green Bay Renewable Energy? From the court documents, the only information I've been able to gather is it appears to be, I believe it was Bruce King was involved with it. Kevin Cornelius is still involved with it. If these entities are still alive and making trouble out there and getting involved in litigation, who are they? Name the names. Green Bay Renewable Energy, who are the owners and who are the principals and the agents of that. Oneida Energy Blocker, who are the agents, who are the owners, who are the principals of that. Green Bay or Oneida Energy Inc., who's the owners and the principals of that. I mean, come clean on this. What other shareholders would tolerate this lack of information about multi-million dollars? And if, Joanne, if you know somehow that it's not $40 million that it was settled for, then apparently you do know what it is. Who's going to come after you from telling us? It's our money that confidential. What? So she's the chief counsel of a sovereign nation. No one's going to sue her if she discloses information to us. So who is she protecting? Why this is going on is just unbelievable. And as far as Pete's claims about how successful Seven Gens is, according to the semi-annual report, the latest figure was that its return to the tribe in fiscal 14 was a big 0. So none of this money is even coming back to us. Why is this even on? And as far as the dissolution, Brandon, you were told to dissolve Seven Gens on December 15th, 2013. The litigation from ACF-GCF wasn't even launched until March of 2014. You had a window there of opportunity. If you would have done what you were told right away, we wouldn't be sitting here millions of dollars less. We have people that are suffering. We have people that can't get our health care bills paid, and instead we have millions of dollars going right out of our pockets to go pay that people that you don't even want to tell who these are. You haven't even told who is in Arland Clean Fuels, Generation Clean Fuels. We know there's individuals by the name of Eric Decator, Louis Stern, Galen LaCrosse, Michael Flaherty. Who else? And who is the shareholders and investors? Are there any tribal members that are shareholders of Generation Clean Fuels, Arland Clean Fuels at all? Answers, please.
Pardon?
Answers, please.
I don't have any answers to who specifically is named agents for any of the subsidiaries of Seven Gens. I don't have that information. I don't know, Pete, if you do or not, or Joanne, or anyone else on the committee here.
What was the date of the settlement agreement that he made? And where did the money come from to pay it?
Do you recall the date of the settlement agreement, Joanne?
I do not recall the date of the settlement agreement.
Was it within the last 6 months?
I
Last
don't
year?
recall that. I'm sorry, I don't know. Seven Generations has several subsidiary entities. The Oneida Energy Blocker, GBRE, I think there is one more, Hudson Road Project. I'm not sure what the exact name of that is. All of those are wholly owned corporations of Seven Gens. They didn't have any personnel, they didn't have any staff. They were created to do a specific part of a project, and they moved on to the next part. The corporations are wholly owned by Seven Gens, which is wholly owned by the tribe. The business committee acts as representatives of the tribe and the shareholder of Seven Gens. Seven Gens acts as the shareholder for those subsidiaries. Until 2013, those subsidiaries all had the same registered agent. A registered agent is simply an individual that's required to be named with the state to accept service by a foreign corporation. Because some of them were created by the tribe, some of them were created in the state, they had to have a registered agent. The owner of all of those subsidiaries identified today was Seven Gens in total. There wasn't any other party in there. I believe that soon after the litigation with ACF began, we started staffing those particular entities, corporations, and we identified an agent for Seven Gens because the board was dissolved, and then an agent was identified for GBRE to make independent decisions on behalf of that company. However, it still reported to Seven Gens. If I am recalling correctly, John Brenninger was appointed as the agent or the sole member of the board of the corporate board for GBRE. I believe he was also then identified as the registered agent. Pete King is identified as the registered agent for Seven Gens, and he's also, because there is no corporate board for Seven Gens, it has an agent in charge of it. He is hired by Seven Gens to be the agent in charge under the business committee as shareholders acting on behalf of the Oneida Nation.
So who are the members and the board members of each of these entities that I mentioned? Those are different. Board members are different than registered agents.
There are
You
no
can still
board
have a
members as of
president,
today. There
You
are
can
no
have a
board
president,
members.
you can have a CEO, you can have a CFO, you can have employees.
Right. The board was dissolved shortly
Of
after
Seven
the
Gen, but
December,
what
in
about these
December
other
of
entities?
13. Pardon?
Oh, about the other entities, Green Bay Renewable Energy, the one that's still going off in litigation, that somehow we're still coughing up money to cover their secret multi-million-dollar settlements. I mean, who thinks that sounds legitimate?
Green Bay Renewable Energy agent was John Brenninger, as stated by Joanne just now. And we needed a person, a body in place in order to fulfill the litigation and to fulfill the requirements of settlement. There had to be a person assigned. and he was willing at that time to be the assigned person. Pete, do you have further information regarding the questions?
My question, or my comment is in regard to confidentiality. And I feel like it's really important that the membership understands confidentiality, because the person standing to my left has been working with the city of Green Bay against us in our lawsuits. She has given them sworn affidavits, business committee, general tribal council minutes. That is totally erroneous.
Leah, knock it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. So when we talk about confidentiality, I'm here to protect the tribe. I'm here to protect the assets on behalf of the tribe. That's what I'm going to do. And if it takes somebody to stand up and say that to the membership, to tell the truth, this is all about Green Bay and Oneida. This is, I mean, are you done? Can I talk? You had your chance. Let me talk. Let me talk. Yeah, I'm done. It's not disrespectful. It's the truth. I'm not the one who gave sworn affidavits to the city of Green Bay. I'm not the one working for Hobart. I'm not. Are you working for Hobart? Are you doing this for free? How are you doing this? It's ridiculous.
Okay. I'm going to move on right now. I'm going to move on.
Well, we know you're getting paid. What are you getting paid to work against the tribe's interests by making
Leah,
secret
that's enough.
multi-million-dollar settlements?
Leah, that's enough. We're going to move
If anybody
on.
wants the full information that I've gathered, go to oneidai.com. There's plenty of truth in there. There's no secret. I'm providing the truth because the litigation on behalf of the waste incineration project
You're-
is ridiculous.
You're done. You need to get away from the mic or I'm going to have you removed.
I'd like to make a motion that the business committee provide a full list of all the of the secret, so-called secret multi-million-dollar settlement at the next GTC meeting.
Okay, we're going to come back to this. We're going to move on to Gina. Gina? Gina?
Hi.